Hi everyone, we are finally in February, the slumpiest and shortest month of the year. It has gone. Goodbye. Thankfully, that was a month. That was a month that was terrible. It was terrible in every aspect of my life. But let's not focus on that. Let's just focus on the readings that I did and the challenges that I fulfilled because today we are tackling other categories in the Reader's Gauntlet. The challenge that was created by Base Reads. If this is the first time interacting with this channel, it is a new challenge that I'm following for the year, in which there's certain prompts that you have to fulfill by reading certain types of books, which is really exciting because I'm just like really big on completing stuff and yeah, getting challenges done. I'm really big on that. So let's just go into it, straight into it, and I will explain the category whenever they come up. So the first book that I finished on the month of February, it was Siege and Storm by Lee Bardugo. This is the second installment in the um in the Grishaverse series.
Hello. So I have started Siege and Storm by Lee Bardugo. This is book two in the Grishaverse or the Shadow and Bone series. Um, not gonna lie, I was not expecting this to be so action packed. I went into this thinking that I was gonna suffer from the second book syndrome, in which like nothing really happens because it serves as a bridge towards the next chapter in the next installment in the series. This, like, I'm around 20%, and so much has happened already. Genuinely, was not expecting this to be so fast paced as well. I'm really excited to go on. Hello. Oof. So I finished Siege and Storm by Lee Bardugo. Um, and I really enjoyed this. As I said, it caught me by surprise. It was very, very action packed, and the characterization in this is just so good. I think it really put like an extra step on what she did in Shadow and Bone. I really think this was better. I ended up giving this 3.75. I Lee Bardugo has a way with twists that I just don't see coming, and I'm really excited to finish this series now, especially because I'm buddy rating this kind of. And yeah, I can't really talk too much about this book because it's the second book in a series, but great, great writing, great characterization, great plot twists. I really, really enjoyed this.
So for this book specifically, I first of all look at this amazing cover, but I'm holding on to the pretty cover challenge for the third book because I think it is way prettier and I cannot wait to show you because I need to read it first, of course. Um, so as for Siege and Storm, I decided to use this. First of all, there is a challenge in this that is called the Alphabet Challenge that is pretty self-explanatory, but you are required to read from every letter of the English alphabet, so 26 books in total. So you might understand that that is a little scary. Therefore, I'm trying my best to build this up as soon as possible. And that is the reason why I chose to use this book for the alphabet challenge for the letter B for Verdugo. You have the choice to either use the name of the author or the title of the book. Me personally, I'd rather do the author. You can use each book twice. So the second prompt that I will be using Siege and Storm for was the trope tracker, which is a challenge that I'm still unsure about. The creator of this challenge was very open about you being like you as the player being very free to adapt every challenge to your own reading habits. So I'm not sure about the tropes because they're mostly like for fantasy and for romance. But I did find something that kind of gets fulfilled by something like this book. So there are six tropes in total. I will scooch over for the graphics. And I think this was perfect for the powerful artifact, which is, of course, a trope that requires the story to be centered around a certain object or artifact that is very powerful, and that story revolves around it and all of that. So this whole series is very centered on that. And so I do think that is very appropriate for the next book that I finished in the month. It is I'll Be the Monster by Sean Gilbert. Hi, so I am currently reading I'll Be the Monster by Sean Gilbert. This is an arc. It is a book that is coming out on the 12th of February. So this is going to be like my February book. And this is a book that talks about this murderous couple who goes into a five-star hotel to save their marriage. This was advertised as kind of like the White Lotus kind of vibes, and I love the White Lotus, so I requested it and it was given to me, and I'm really thankful for that. So far, I'm a little like around the middle, and it was kind of a roller coaster situation. I was really intrigued by the beginning. I think the hook was great. Um, and then it started falling flat a little bit because there's like these flashbacks of like the protagonist's time in Cambridge like 10 years before. So it is kind of like in the academia and everything, but I was not particularly interested in that. Plus, all of the characters involved are kind of really unlikable in like as intended. They're supposed to be like the worst people that you know, and that does not help sometimes. But now around the middle, it's picking up again, and I'm really enjoying it. I mean, not really enjoying it. I am really invested, and I was around like I think yesterday I was a little less than 30% of the book, and now I'm at 68. So like the whole yesterday, I was reading so fast and like so much because I was I was uh I was very interested in knowing what was gonna happen next. So I'll tell you how I like it when I finish it. As I have mentioned in the previous videos, so on the reading vlog, this was an arc review. So I did get a chance to read this before the release date, which was I think on the 27th of February or the 12th. I think the 12th of February. And there is a prompt that kind of gives you a reason to read new releases. So a new release for every month. Of course, this came out in February, so I did decide to give this to the February spot. As for the second, as for the second prompt that I used this for, I did also use this for the alphabet challenge. This video is going to be a little repetitive because almost the entirety of these books are at least once put in the alphabet challenge. But of course, I'm going to be using this as the G letter. So that brings us, I think, to 3 out of 26. You get it. You get why I no. This puts it at 4 because 3 was Siege and Storm. So 4 out of 26. You understand where I'm coming from? Thank you. Third book that I finished on February was The Body Keeps the Score by Van der Kolk. So, since I am tandem reading that, The Martian, with my friend, decided to keep on going with The Body Keeps the Score. This is by Bessel van der Kolk. He is a trauma psychologist, and I'm a psychologist, if you didn't know. Um, so yeah, I was in the middle of it kind of, and have been reading this for months, but it's a nonfiction, so I was kind of really really slow with it. But it looks interesting. It's like the text is super small, super tiny, but there's also yeah, we'll see about that. We'll see how this goes.
want to be honest with you and admit that I've been baited by a girl on TikTok. I did finish The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk. This was advertised to me on TikTok as a guide to stop overthinking. That's how the girl put it. And me being a very anxious person that overthinks a lot, I thought this would help me in that matter. But this is not a self help book, which you do understand as soon as you read the synopsis, as soon as you look up the name of the book online. I didn't. I kind of went into it blind, expecting something like that. I came to realize that this was, in fact, not a self help book, and this was a psychological analysis on trauma and its methods. Methods that were used in history, but also in the author's practice with these patients to either resolve the trauma or to bettering. Is that a verb? Or to make his patient's symptoms um, easier to overcome or like easier to bear. I have given this 4 stars. I felt very enlightened by this read, even though it did take me quite a while for its complexity and its length. It is a pretty lengthy book. It is around 430 pages, which is a lot for a nonfiction book, in the sense that it is harder to read than a fiction book. Not because it was not necessary, not because nonfiction should be less than that. I do not mean that, because it's not fiction. It's things that you have to sit and pay attention and elaborate and make them yours. Understand them at its maximum, because otherwise, why are you reading this? If I was not a psychologist myself, I will admit that I would have found this even harder, because this is filled with definitions. It is filled with case studies, which I loved, uh, and data analysis. And so there have been a lot of points in which it was really hard to keep focus, because I'm also studying in the meantime. Um, I'm doing some courses, some side courses, and so it was really hard to go into reading to have like a breath of fresh air, like some relaxation, and to be back into academics. But that being said, I feel like this book was incredibly written. I did cry. For some reason I cried on a nonfiction book about psychology. I cried. That sums me up, I think. But this was written beautifully, and it did help me to understand concepts better, and it also helped me to learn new things that I had not, during my studies, even though trauma is largely explored in psychology, in psychology courses. But this was good. This was really good. And I'm happy to have finished it, because it was really intimidating. I did start this before this year. I started it like at the end of 2025, and it took me a long time to get through this. So I was not sure that I was going to actually do it, but I did. And I'm very happy and proud of myself for doing this. This was quite intimidating for me. It is around 420 pages long, and again, it is a nonfiction, so pretty hard for me to get through, especially since it is something that I've studied and that is involved in my profession. I am a psychologist, and so I was not really thrilled to just jump back into it every once in a while, because it does feel like studying to me, and so I'm not really excited to do so. But in the end, we did it, and so I think it deserves a spot in the intimidation triangle, which is a challenge that requires you to finish or pick up 3 books that intimidate you. Okay, so I felt that was most appropriate. For the second prompt that I used this for, sorry. Actually, I'm not sorry. You should understand me. You should sympathize. So I did use this
for the alphabet challenge. I used it for the letter V because the author's name is Bessel van der Kolk. And so, yeah, we are at 5 out of 26. We still have a long way to go, but I think it was the best choice to really focus on that challenge. Fourth book that I finished on February was My Sister the Serial Killer by Oinkan Braithwaite. Hello, good morning. I started My Sister the Serial Killer recently by Oinkan Braithwaite, and this is a fiction slash thriller about this woman, Corede, whose sister. The book opens up with a call from her sister, in which she tells her that she killed another man. And yes, I did say another one. This is apparently her third time doing this, and Corede is expecting to kind of clean up the mess after her. And I'm about like 30%, 35%. Um, and so far it's super fast paced. The chapters are really fast, really short. And so I like to, whenever I have like even 1 minute, 2 minutes of my free time, to open up and just read a chapter or two, because it's really that easy. I am feeling very frustrated right now because the character of the sister is insufferable. It's just so frustrating to read about this and what she does and how she handles things. Um, I did pick up this book from the library, and so I kind of need to finish it at ASAP. But aside from that, I am enjoying the pace. There's not much else that I like particularly about this book so far, just that for now. But I am willing to like give this more attention and more time to grow on me. Excuse my tired face. Um, I ended up finishing My Sister the Serial Killer today, and I ended up giving this 3.5 stars. So this book was more fiction than it was a thriller, which I was expecting kind of from the title and the vibe of the cover. I don't know if you can see it, but she has like somebody with like their hand holding up a knife, ready to stab. Um, and it also was giving kind of the vibes of Bat Eater, which is like my one of my favorite reads of last year. That is more of a horror thriller situation. Um, so the problem, not the problem, but like the hard part of reading fiction is that it doesn't really have a lot happening in them, and so I don't want to say I was left disappointed, but I think it does get the message across. I was hoping for things to happen because the signs were there, and I really did think that the author was setting things up for certain things to happen. But I was left hungry a little bit for most of the book. I do want to mention though that towards the last 100 pages, which is not that late because the book is around 240 pages in total. It is a pretty short book. Things did start picking up, and I almost binged the whole thing. This book is very easily readable. It's very short. It's very fast paced. The chapters are very short, and the language is very simple and concise. I do think this makes a great company of a book without being shallow. I don't think the themes are addressed in like a surface level. I think it goes deep and it has a bigger meaning. And I really appreciated the way things unfolded and the way things were shown to the reader. And in the end, you do realize how far even you would go for somebody that you love, even if that somebody is insufferable and has taken everything from you. So this is a pretty short book. It counts around 216 or 15 pages, quite short. And there is a challenge on here that is called by the hundreds. So you are required to read one book for every 100-page count. Like it goes up. It's really hard to explain, but I'm sure you got it. So I did use this for the 200 spot since it is around 215 pages. Second of all, this book is from the library. I always get a batch of books every at the beginning of every month, and I set my goal to at least finish them before returning them. I have not been very good at this. I got 3 books and I only read this one, but I will catch up hopefully before having to return them. So this will take a spot on the library challenge, which requires you to read 3 books from the library. And, since it's something that I usually do, I didn't really focus on that. But I think this, at least once every month, I should put a focus into that before it is too late. Maybe something happens, maybe the library burns down, maybe I have to move and I will not have access anymore. So, do you yeah, you get me. And as for the last book in this video, and that I finished during this month, we have The Sound of Waves.
I am starting the book for this month of my book club, and it is this one. I think in English it's called The Sound of Waves by Yukio Mishima. It is a book about, I think, two lovers in a I'm not really sure what this book is about. I just started it, but the vibes are immaculate. This is set in a little island in Japan, and there are waves. You can literally hear the waves in your ears while you're reading this. And there's this lighthouse and these common pools for baths. I don't know, it is atmospheric so far.
This is a book that, as mentioned previously, was picked for my book club of this month. And what we usually do is send out a poll on the WhatsApp group chat, and the genre gets voted, and then the book gets voted, always through a poll. And so there is a challenge that is called the poll pick challenge or something like that. Sorry, I did not look it up right before starting the video, but it obviously requires to pick your next read through a poll of some kind, of some sort. And I do think that it works. So that brings us to 1 out of 3, I think. As for the last category failed by this book, I decided to put it in the By the Hundreds challenge because this book has a little over 150 pages, and I don't usually read books this tiny. So I thought it was the best occasion to fill this gap up. That is all for this video. Hasn't been a great month for me, but it surely was filled with stories that I'm happy to share and happy to experience in the first place. So, as always, thank you so much for watching or whatever, and I will catch up with you in March.